Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, welcome to the newest episode of the Cats and Rats, episode number 36 here. I'm joined by my co-host, Cody Stevens and Nick Levine. We got a couple special guests here today. We call him Banksy in our community, Nick Fairbanks, and from the Locked On Network, Armando Velez. So we're going to get into 2C talk here, but we're going to wait for a little bit because, Cody, there's some information that was given to me over the holiday break here. If we can put it up for our YouTube audience here, so everyone at home on the Spotify and Apple side, Cody, if you can kind of read off that tweet there, and then I'll reveal the names.
By the way, Kirby, no player shout out. I got to give UC Okinen some credit there.
There we go.
But to start here, Kirby tweeted out a couple days ago, I'm starting to hear some names finally circling around the Florida Panthers. Eye emoji, top six winger, depth D-man inside division, veteran bottom six out west, and a promising 23-year-old top four defenseman, double confirmation there. We will see what Bill Zito has in store for 2025.
Yes. So everyone wanted to know the names, some of the comments in there. Yes, they were on the right track there, but I said, wait for our latest episode, Cats and Rats Podcast. So I'm going to reveal the names here, and then panel, I'm going to go to you guys as well as our guests here tonight as well. So obviously the defenseman, I think people kind of thought and assumed on Bowen Byram, defenseman out of Buffalo. Also another defenseman out of Buffalo by the name of Henry Jokiharju. And then the forwards, these are interesting names here. We know this name. We're very familiar with this name. Yanni Gourde out of Seattle, the centerman. And this was kind of the bombshell one. Taylor Hall, Chicago Blackhawks forward. So this is the stuff I got from my source. Panthers have been speaking to the Buffalo Sabres. Jokiharju is not a sexy name, but they like his skating and his smarts. Zito has poked around on Taylor Hall for a while. No other details were given to me, Kirby, but Zito has been in on him for a hot second or a hot while. So there's some comments there on Jokiharju, Taylor Hall. Nick, I know you've heard about the Yanni Gourde one, so you can speak on him. And then, maybe a depth defenseman like Henry Jokiharju that could fit into Zito's system with his skating and ability. So, Cody, I don't know if you want to start off first there, and then panel, we can go around the horn on any of those names you like to comment on.
Yeah. The Jokiharju one is a very low-key kind of guy, because the last time the Panthers got a low-key defenseman out of Buffalo, his name was Brandon Montour. I don't know if you guys remember him. Pretty important guy. But the Taylor Hall doesn't surprise me at all, because if people remember correctly, Taylor Hall was a free agent after the 2020 season, and Zito went after him then. And that's when he went to Buffalo, and then he tried to go after him again at the deadline, but that's when he got shipped off to Boston. So, Taylor Hall's been a name that the Panthers have been linked for years. Even when Talon was there, he was we were still linked with him when he went to Arizona. So, he's the most unlikely out of the ones you've said. Number one contract, $6 million per year. I don't know how much is left on it. I think 3 years, 2-3 years left.
Something like that. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah. And I don't know how he would fit in the system, but Zito seems to kind of like him. But I mean,
that's kind of your Tarasenko guy, could play up and down line, first, second, third line at this point.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the winning pedigree like a Tarasenko does, because Hall.
I'm not a Hall guy, Cody.
I don't think he's.
I don't like Hall, but I think he could fit in better in a supporting role than a lead role. I worry about him if he was in a lead role.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember there were two guys for Boston that killed us in that famous 3-1 comeback. It was him and Tyler Bertuzzi.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys murked us. I can't describe it, but Hall has never been outside of the first round of the playoffs, I don't think, because he lost in New Jersey to Tampa the year he won the Hart, and then he lost to us in the first round. And then he has Boston. They beat whoever. I think it was Washington that year.
Yeah.
But
so again, on those names, Armando, Nick, Banksy, whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Yanni Gourde. Well, first of all, with the Dolphins season over and the Heat season in shambles, all the focus shifts to the Panthers. So it's nice,
right,
Let's go Panthers season
baby.
here.
Let's go see.
Panthers season is
here. But on Yanni Gourde, there was actually a couple of different points I had on him. Number one, this is a name we mentioned for the offseason on our spaces, potentially replacing Sam Bennett, who we'll talk about later. But a guy who could play both the wing and center, a guy we're familiar with. I remember a lot of the times he was going at Jonathan Huberdeau in those Tampa series, and he pissed me off, man, right?
No.
But that's the type of kind of guy, you want on your team. And, talking about the bottom six, right? A guy who could either play on that wing spot with Lundell and Losterino or even move up, who knows, but could also kind of replace like a Tomasz Nosek on a fourth line center role if that's the route they decided to take with it. Yoki Haru, right shot guy, that's very important. I believe we only have one right shot defenseman on the team, and that's Aaron Ekblad, right? So
Got rid of Uyghur, Monter,
or Gudis, over the last couple of years. And so that's something that's going to be a point of emphasis here. And I'm sure as more names come out publicly, we'll start to see that pattern there.
I'm starting to call him Popcorn Boy Adam Boquist, but he's been
well, I wouldn't even count him, right? So
right?
like
he's not even in the lineup as a right hand.
But Yoki Aru, is a former first round pick. He was with Chicago for a while, and he's kind of just been, more of a steady bottom pair guy. He's at 17:55 of ice time this season, but he has played 20 and 21 minutes in the past. One thing of note, and I'm not a huge fan of this plus minus stat. Everybody knows that. But over the last two
Such a
seasons,
useless
Henry,
stat.
yeah, but in some cases, I guess it could tell the story. I don't like it, but some people could take this as they will. On a team like Buffalo, whose goal differential right now is -15, he's +2, and last year he was +14 and playing around 18 minutes of ice time. So kind of a guy who's 6 foot, right shot, seems to be steady, playing around an 18, 19-minute role, can go up to 20, 21 if needed. But it's definitely interesting, especially the forward front, because one of the things we were talking about, Kirby, is where do they see Mackey in the fold, right? Is he maybe a potential healthy scratch come playoff time? Because he's buried on the fourth line right now. They really like Boqvist in that top nine, but Gord is a name I could either see playing 4C, which would replace Nosek, although if they keep Mackey next to him, or potentially on that
the
third
wing
line.
until training camp next year.
Right. And then they go or you could go on the third line, and that bumps Boqvist down and essentially bumps Mackey out of the lineup, because you need Nosek to play center, and I don't see Mackey playing in a playoff series or a physical game over a career.
Let's go to Armando here. Welcome back to the podcast, by the way, Armando. Give us your feedback there, because I'm throwing these names on you and Banksy here, but give me your first initial take here.
Yeah, Yoki Haru was someone that I also was looking a little bit at as someone who will be in the top four, but I also maybe thought about a few other third pair guys that would possibly be on the cheap for the Panthers if they wanted to go that direction. It's all just gonna depend as well of how much percentage of their cap hits you're going to take, as well as if you want to make an additional move along with bringing in like a Yanni Gourde along with the depth defenseman. So it depends. If they make one move for a third pair guy and then a middle six winger for them, it's going to depend on the numbers there for the Panthers. But Yoki Haru is one that I have circled. Actually, Yanni Gourde today just actually went on IR for the Seattle Kraken. So that just happened today. So and the experience, 33 years old, Stanley Cup champion for him. So that's definitely a piece that would be valuable for the Panthers. And if we know that Bennett plays tough. So depending on if there's that situation where you need someone to go up to the 3C and then bump Lundell up, Yanni Gourde could also be that guy who you could fill in on that spot, because we haven't seen Eetu Luostarinen play on that center spot in a while.
I love that from him. That's
time.
where I would think if we brought in Gourde, Armando, maybe next year they put Eetu back to center, or that's where a position is open for Gourde to be center. So you're very flexible in that situation going into next year too.
Yeah, no doubt.
And if you take a look at the forwards Zito's brought in, a lot of versatility. Reinhardt's played center before.
Oh, most definitely.
Verhaeghe's played center before. Rodriguez has played center before. I believe the only guy really in our top nine that hasn't played center is Matthew Tkachuk currently, because Jesper Boqvist is playing 4C. Another thing I wanted to know, Yoki Haru has on a 1-year deal, and he has $3.1 million on the deal. So,
and I just want to add in on Gourde, kills penalties, good at faceoffs, championship pedigree. That really fits into Bill Zito there in his mold. Cody, quick, and then we want to go to Banksy here.
Yeah, and just to add to the salary cap front, for those who are wondering, the Panthers currently, I think, have around 2.4 or 2.5 in trade deadline cap space. But to me, you could kind of round that up to about 3.2, because if they do bring in a defenseman, I think Adam Boqvist goes on waivers. And potentially into the AHL. So
I've been a big proponent. You can be using the waivers already. I say this every night on our post-game show.
No good person makes it to us.
Yeah. No, but put our guys on waivers to open up additional cap.
Yeah, but for who? We don't have nothing.
I know.
Is that 3.2 more or less than what we had last year? Are we not sure?
Banksy, what
Right
are your
around
thoughts on those names there?
Hey guys, so the Yoki Haru rumor is actually pretty enticing. The guy is always an agitator when he plays against the Panthers and is always mucking it up. So I think he would fit right in with this group and actually probably add something on the back end as far as that. Because I'll be honest with you, where's the bite from the back end besides Mikola and everything? So and he can skate. So if he can skate, then I think he can definitely slot in the top four and then provide a little bit of relief for either Kulikov or Schmidt right now. Because I think Schmidt's playing over his head right now, and Kulikov is up and down this season. So if we can push them down to a third pairing and maybe play like 15, 16, 17 minutes a night and get Yoki Haru and like 18 to 21 minutes, I think it'd be perfect. And his deal is actually pretty digestible. You know, you guys said 3.1. You know, all you have to do is put a guy on waivers and hopefully he clears or they can clear that cap space. But Yannick Gourde, very interesting name. I think if he were to come here and there was an acquisition made, I actually think that one of the centers is going to go. I don't see how the Panthers are going to hold on to about 5 centers, you know, with Barkov, Bennett, Lundell, and Nosek, and expect to, I guess, you know, get the forward line straightened out.
Does Nosek become a healthy scratch? That's something I propose to my community.
He probably goes the other way.
Well, then you would think that somebody else would be coming in for that 4C.
Yeah, but you can throw Gourde at 4C.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
a championship level defense if you've got Lundell playing 3C in the time being, if Bennett's sticking around, and then you got Gourde at the 4C.
Yeah. I think Nosek is just very underwhelmed, and I'm sad to say that he was one of the pickups I wanted 2 years ago. But
you're like Nick with that.
I wanted him 2 years ago when we got Stenlin, him in that Boston series. He really impressed me.
He did, and you wonder if it's age that's finally caught up, or maybe he's just taking a different outlook on life, because it happens to all of us eventually. But you know, I think if you were to bring in Gourde, it is a replacement for Nosek. And then you got to hope that Bennett will just stick around, and you know, we'll see what the contract negotiations look like. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
For what it's worth, for what it's worth, faceoff's not the be all end all stat, but it's a career low for Tomas Nosek right now.
Yeah,
he's been hovering around that 49-50%.
He finally got it up above 50. But the name that Kirby said that would cost the most would be Bowen Byram.
Yeah.
And he is extremely intriguing. Former top 5 pick, traded to Buffalo in the Casey Middlestat deal from a couple years ago. Currently has a cap at of $3.85 million.
He's a pending RFA, I believe.
Yes, so
correct.
And he also, in 40 games, he has 22 points, 5 goals, 17 assists. He has a +3, and he's averaging 23 minutes a night time on ice, which is pretty high considering some of the guys Buffalo has, you know, Darlene, Power.
And he's never gotten power play one time, obviously behind McCarr in Colorado, behind Rasmus Dahlin. He's never really gotten that chance. And, you know,
and unfortunately, he had the concussion issues, the post-concussion syndrome in Colorado. So he kind of had that murk up a little bit. He kind of has that baggage with him. But he's
considered retiring.
And also, a lot of things people forget is he has a Stanley Cup. He stepped up big when Sam Girard got hurt in that second round against St. Louis a couple years ago for Colorado. So he really, you know, would be an excellent fit.
And is he a right-handed shot?
Left-handed, but
left-handed.
Okay.
Every defense we look at's left-handed. At
but
point,
you know,
I don't know.
And especially with the pending situation with Aaron Ekblad and the pedigree of Bowen Byram. I mean, very intriguing option. You talk about what we'd have to give up, especially for an in-season trade, right? We've talked about the RFA market
in-season and in division.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like the likes of Spencer Knight, Sam Bennett, perhaps a Saviskevich first-round pick, something like that, right? And I don't know if that's really doable right now, or that's something Zito is willing to pull the trigger
I don't think it's gonna be Knight, because remember Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Devin Levi there.
A lot of the trade target teams, they already have a young goalie or goalie in place.
I think you're looking more at possibly Mackey Or you can look down the line of the prospects, our better ones, Grayson Sawchin,
Jack Devine, I mentioned.
Jack Devine,
I'd almost assume a first round pick's going the other way.
yeah, so
Yeah,
most
that's
definitely.
like the starting
And
point.
and maybe even the guy we drafted last year in the second round, Linus Eriksson.
I haven't thought of that one yet.
Yeah, because Zito has traded a guy who he literally just drafted. Remember, we drafted Emil Heineman that year that we made the Sam Bennett deal.
A lot of those names you mentioned, very key wingers or even centermen, they're not all going to play.
Yeah, but with Buffalo, they're kind of backlogged on defense right now because they have Owen Power under contract, Rasmus Dahlin under contract, Matthias Samuelson's under contract. So and Byram's kind of like the odd man out there because they didn't draft him and they didn't lock him up like the rest of them did. So now it's an interesting spot because Byram, out of all the guys we said, has the highest ceiling. Also has the lowest floor.
But I think he's kind of proven, I think he's a legit top 4 defenseman in the league
now
right
he
now.
is, yes.
So it's just basically how much do you think he could grow? I mean, he's just 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's probably in the similar position that Chikrin was a couple years ago, where Chikrin was it wasn't the worst secret in the world that Arizona was going to trade Chikrin. That's when they asked the world of. I remember that rumor that they asked for like Lundell or Knight at the time. Like that was ridiculous, and they ended up just giving him up for like a first and even Subway footlong.
I know he's having a good year in Washington, but he's like kind of turned into what, like a number 3 guy? Like everybody's talking him to be this number 1 defenseman, right? So like you kind of have to like, and I know he had some injury issues in Arizona, but like that's part of so was Byram in Buffalo and Colorado.
Panthers fever is here. Are you geared up? CanesWear in Davie is the place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. CanesWear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at pantherswear.com. Again, that's pantherswear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear.
But why we brought the gentleman here tonight, guys? We want their feedback on this, Cody.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's been a hotter topic as of late within our Spaces community, and it has strengthened due to the play of none other than Mr. Anton Lundell. I could speak for the 3 of us at the Cats and Rats podcast that we believe that Lundell should be promoted to 2C, because not only has he been playing phenomenal, it's just we need
he should be playing with higher talent up the lineup. Why is this guy? Why is that guy? Why is Lundell not playing up the lineup?
Like Lundell needs to start playing with like better guys around him because like the year before he was stuck. Like Lusto's my guy, but he's not really off. He's not a guy you would put with like a guy that you need to see his offensive potential.
Yeah.
But like Lundell's been saddled with the likes of Antu Lusterinen, Nick Cousins. If we had an injured guy on the wing, Ryan Lomberg, and we bring in Vladimir Tarasenko last year at the deadline, and Lundell is top 5 on the team in points in the playoff run. And it's becoming more and more of a thing because a lot of the Panthers fans want to re-sign Bennett. And I don't know where Banksy and Armando stand on that, but I'm on the boat of let him walk.
I want to hear Armando's take on this because I kind of know where Banksy comes from because Banksy comes to our post-game show and he has an Anton Lundell stand-in supporter. So if you want to give us a different angle to look at here, Armando, where you've come at this from, but like bring it from like the Lundell 2C perspective side, and what are your feelings on that?
Well, I just think about just going back to round 1 and going into the Eastern Conference Final when things were shifting and Sam Bennett couldn't take faceoffs at one point, that when Anton Lundell was above in the lineup in the top 6, how much it was going versus even when Sam Bennett and for him, although he was dealing with the injury, wasn't driving that third line as much as Lundell was. So it was whenever they were switching places, you saw the one adapt better than the other to the situation for them. And who's the guy who always gets the call every time Barkov is sick or something else with Sam Bennett? It's Anton Lundell. He's getting the call. So when you're thinking of when the extension happened, okay, that's a little maybe pricey for a third line center. But when you think about what's coming up with the cap and everything, and you're promoting it to a second line center, then you're seeing value over the lifetime of the deal for Anton Lundell. So I think it's just been the reason why he's just not in the top 6 consistently. It's just it comes down to not his turn yet, but we know that the writing is maybe slowly on the wall, because if you sign every single forward, then what's going to happen on the back end for the Panthers if you sign Sam Bennett? So I'm thinking it's just going to create an imbalance in the lineup for the Panthers. And I'm thinking the same thing. I know the week 18 just finished, but there's one thing going on with the Cincinnati Bengals. If you sign 2 of your wide receivers, what happens to the rest of the lineup in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? So I'm thinking the same thing with the Florida Panthers. If you sign Verhaeghe, Barkov, Kachuk, everyone else, what's going to happen on that end? Bob still has another year. Spencer Knight still has another year on their deal. So what's going to happen there? Are you going to deal with the short-term pain if you're gonna sign Sam Bennett? But also, Elliot Friedman did talk about the cap maybe going up to $95 million. But at the same time, if you sign both Ekblad and Bennett, there might be a little bit of a cap clearing trade for the team. Is an Erod going to go? Is an Etu going to go in the middle of that as well? So that's really what the situation is. But I am more on the lines of promoting Anton Lundell and focus that cash on the back end for the Panthers.
And Banksy, just off of Armando's point there, where did Anton Lundell play his best hockey for the last 2 years? In the playoffs. Fans and even content creators, media say different things to me like, well, he's playing down the lineup and he's not producing there. The big thing to me as Banksy is put him up with Kachuk and see how he plays. I've seen how he did in the Montreal game a couple years ago, what he did in the Tampa Bay series, what he did the other night in overtime. Kachuk didn't get going in that overtime until he was on the ice with Anton Lundell. Then Bennett comes out and they get a scoring chance. Is anyone else noticing this chemistry between Matthew Kachuk and Anton Lundell? And he will produce the points if you put him higher up in the lineup, Banksy.
He most definitely will, and he's actually already kind of proven it. He already has some synergy with Kachuk whenever he is boosted up into the lineup. So what you got to see here is, are you willing to put Lundell in that position and take Bennett off? Because we know that Bennett and Kachuk have chemistry, but I think as they both age and that the team starts moving into, hopefully trying to repeat, you have to start looking at how your team's going to face up here in the playoffs. So if you look at the stats right now, Sam Bennett by far is probably our worst center outside of Nosek. Even with driving the play, he turns the puck over a lot. He's a -10 away, and he's also a -14. I know that's not a huge stat that everybody likes, but
he hasn't been a plus player since December 5th or 7th, Banksy.
Yes. So he's turning the puck over. He's not taking care of. He's not being responsible. Now, you bring in Lundell on the second line. It allows Kachuk or Verhaeghe or whoever else is going to be on the other line a little bit more freedom to do what they're going to do, because they know that Lundell is responsible and going to take over the defensive responsibilities, and they don't have to rush back. Plus, I think the fact that Kachuk and Lundell have something going on, especially on the rush, they feed off of each other. They did during the playoffs last year when Bennett was out. But again, it's the fans right now, I think, are mixed because they know that Bennett impacts the game, and he's that guy that stirs the drink when it comes to like the Boston Bruins. He did it against the Rangers, and he took out the Carolina Hurricanes. He took out Slavin, I believe, with just a beautiful hit. So I think those are the small little memories that fans like to think about, but they don't look at the whole work, the body of work there. And I think Lundell is basically on the tip there of actually taking over the second line, because with the way the team has played over the last month, they need better defense, and they need to be able to, lock it down. I mean, they got to start getting their defense locked in right now.
Yeah.
I want to throw to Nick here quickly, Cody. We haven't talked about this yet, Nick, and I know you probably want to touch base on this because we talked off the air. Who plays penalty kill, power play? Potentially,
there's a lot that
5-on-5.
So for the first time in his career, in Anton Lundell's career, he has surpassed Sam Bennett in time on ice per game. So you have a guy, and the whole argument here was, why is Lundell ready for the 2C? He's on pace for 53 points, a feat which Bennett has never eclipsed 50 points. He's on pace to this year, but I don't think he has a goal or a point in his last what, 12, 13 games, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you already talked about the chemistry and everything, but I'm just talking about what he's already done. He's on pace for over 53 points. He's over 51% of the face-off circle. He plays 17 and a half minutes a night, more than Sam Bennett. If you take a look at the playoff experience, not only does he have experience, he's thrived in the playoffs. 17 points in 24 games last year. And I don't think
one of our best players in the Vegas series when no one showed up.
Exactly. So like and we've already talked about what he did when he came up the lineup. Talk about his chemistry with Sam Reinhart. Talk about his chemistry with Matthew Tkachuk. What he's displayed with Verhaeghe, right? We've seen what like kind of Lundell could do. Like remember his first year with Marchman and Reinhart, on pace for over 50 points that year. He missed about 20 games.
That was the third line.
Right, and that was a third line, right? So you put him with talented players, he's going to put up points. And that was kind of always the thing with Lundell, even when he came out of the draft, was his skating and his offensive ceiling. For a number 2 center, you're putting up over 50% in the faceoff circle. You're playing power play 2, penalty kill 1, and he's taken over for Stenlund and done a pretty nice job this year. And, you know, given the offensive production and everything.
Playing against some of the toughest matchups that I don't think the casual fan always picks up on.
So I think you take a look. I think he's more than ready for the 2C. I think part of what our fan base or some people are hesitant about is they're not ready to let Sam Bennett go. I think that's more of it.
But they don't want to pay him either, Nick.
Exactly. And again, listen, I don't hate Sam Bennett. I wish we could keep him, right? But for the long-term sustainability of success for the team, and that might mean sacrificing a year or two here and there to give yourself the best 6-7 year window, right? It's going to take losing some good players. Like Armando said, like if you sign every forward, you're not going to be able to sign defense, right? So I think Lundell, he's already showcased what he can do. And he checks the box for everything you want in a 2C. A two-way player, can win face-offs, produce at a pretty good level.
Has a higher ceiling that he has.
Exactly. Has chemistry with those players. And again, can play against any, like Anton Lundell could be out there against any line in the NHL. And I'd be more than comfortable with it. In fact, I'd probably be more comfortable than having Sam Bennett out there. I mean, Cody jokes about this a lot, but it's true. He can't win a draw. I mean, there's like some games he has like 27% in the face-off circle, right?
2 for 11. We're like,
right? Listen, he's at 46% now, but we see how up and down that is, right? But and
then the bad penalties. Not to
go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, for those of you, next time you watch a game, right? Just do me a favor. Every time Bennett in the second line's out there, Bennett Tkachuk, I don't know whoever the heck the winger is that day. They always get the O-zone starts because they know they can't. It's more likely they're going to lose the draw. Lundell and Barkov's line get the D-zone draws because they're more likely to win them. And it's just.
And the second line hasn't had puck possession this year.
I don't know if you noticed.
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
There were times last year when Bennett and Rodriguez on the wing, Rodriguez would take the draw. And this is the regular season, not with Bennett's hand injury. Before that, Rodriguez would take the draws because Bennett was so bad. I mean, another thing with Sam Bennett, he won't play wing, so he can't move up the lineup, right? If he's not with Matthew Tkachuk, it's
nothing.
It's nothing, right? Part of the reason why, I don't think it's an indictment on Lundell, the reason he hasn't moved up. It's more Sam Bennett can't play with anybody outside of Matthew Tkachuk. You put him on a third line. Like Armando, you mentioned at the end of the second round against Boston going into the conference final.
Yeah, Lundell
was doing great, but that third line with, I believe, Losterino and Rodriguez was doing nothing with them.
Look what happened in game 3 at the end with Wennberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Totally blown assignment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, going to Kirby's point about Lundell playing his best at the Vegas series, look what happened also with the line changes that went on in that series. Who did Lundell end up playing with? Barkov towards the end of that series because of how those were the guys who were mostly pushing offense for the Panthers.
We almost had to play Barkov at defense there.
Our third line was legitimately Eric Stahl, Ryan Lomberg, and Colin White.
It was our fourth line the whole year.
And it was
our third line in the final. It was
game 5 of the Stanley Cup final.
And I'm not getting on the defense because we're not going there. But Casey Fitzgerald and Josh Mahura, I was done.
Woo! Whew, yeah. So one thing I do want to bring up, if you look at the last 3 games for Lundell and everything, he's actually averaging about 2 or 3 minutes more than Sam Bennett right now. You can you can take into account that he has more shorthanded time, but it just shows right now that I believe the coaching staff trusts him more, and actually to put him in different parts of the game that the Panthers really need him right now. I mean, they were up 1-0 against Pittsburgh last night, and then all of a sudden Pittsburgh comes back and scores off of I think it was a Crosby goal. And then after that, where was the second line? I mean, you have Tkachuk that scores, I believe, on the power play, but Sam Bennett's nowhere.
Takes that horrible penalty.
Exactly.
Got fined for it.
So, yeah, 5,000.
He's lucky he didn't get suspended for it. Like, straight up uppercutted the guy.
I mean,
same thing he did to Marchand last year.
I was about to say, what does Marchand think of that one? But I'm going to say this. Like, I think just the time right now with Bennett is, I don't know if the Panthers really know what to do with him, because he is such a part of this team over the last couple of years that he is probably a team favorite locker room guy. But at the same time, you don't want to give him $6 million a year for him to be the new 3C. He doesn't really play well with anybody else. And then thirdly, he's injured most of the time. So why would you invest that much money? It's like paying Aaron Ekblad another $7.5 million for 7 years. Again, that's just my opinion on that, but you don't pay for broken players. You gotta get younger.
And that hasn't been Zito's MO either.
And I don't think you overpay for locker room. It might take a little bit, but the core of the leadership here, and that's the thing that's not getting talked about a lot, is losing Bennett and potentially Ekblad in an offseason. That could have an effect. I'm not disputing that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then especially after losing to guys like Montour and Lomberg and Cousins the year before, that's a lot, right? But Stenlund, right? But you take a look. Matthew Tkachuk came in. He said, "Oh, he's the leader, right? He's this." I think Barkov's done a nice job too. I think Matthew Tkachuk needs to be the guy, right? And as important as these other guys in the locker room have been, that's why we brought Matthew Tkachuk in, for his leadership and for everything, he does on and off the ice.
But Banksy, Armando, thank you for joining us on this episode. Let everyone know where you can find you guys, like Twitter handles, Instagram, whatever.
They can follow me on at Monoman12 on X and Blue Sky, and on Instagram as well at @LO_FLA Panthers, along with X and Blue Sky there as well. So how about you, Nick?
You guys can follow me on X at Prudentia0. I almost forgot my handle there. Prudentia0. And, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Bure1096.
There we go.
Guys, thank you.
Yep.
Part of the Pavel Bure group chat there. And Banksy put us a lot of times on Spaces post-game as well there, Cody.
Yep, but thank you once again. Shout out our sponsor, CanesWear. Go check them out in Davie, Florida. And as always, let's go Cats.
What's up, Cats and Rats fans? If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you head out. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Just like always, let's go Cats.